I changed my security gate code to her phone number. That's when everything exploded. I nearly dropped my latte watching the live feed. 3 strangers just waltzed through my private gate like they owned the place. Victoria Harlow, queen of faux neighborly charm, looked right into the camera and said to them, "Don't worry, it's totally fine." Fine. This wasn't a dog park. This was my home, my sanctuary, my only peace from the chaos outside. I'm Jackson, 25, a game developer who prefers solitude over social drama. My world is made of logic, not HOA politics. But that morning, as her unauthorized entourage stepped onto my lawn, it hit me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a declaration. Victoria hadn't just crossed the line. She set fire to it and smiled while doing it. And if she wanted a game, well, I write the code. Let's play. I build worlds, digital ones. Places where I control the chaos, where bugs get fixed and logic matters. That's why I bought a house in a gated community. Peace, predictability, privacy. When I moved in last year, I didn't expect much, just silence, a trimmed lawn, and no one knocking on my door unless my PC caught fire. So I upgraded everything. Motion lights, smart locks, cameras, laser sensors. I even coded a voice system that can play Beethoven or barking dogs depending on the mood. Call it overkill. I call it preparation. I've lived through neighborhoods without boundaries before, and trust me, they're not neighborhoods. They're battlefields. This time I wanted control, but what I didn't realize is that the real threat wasn't outside the gate. She was already inside. Smiling. Her name was Victoria Harlow, and she had plans. She showed up the day I moved in. Victoria Harlow. Hair perfectly set, wearing a tennis visor. Indoors. A clipboard hugged to her chest like it held classified documents. She didn't knock. She appeared uninvited, unbothered, unavoidable. "You must be Jason," she said. "It's Jackson." "Close enough," she replied, eyes already scanning my porch like it was a violation waiting to happen. Then she handed me a welcome packet, thick printed, annotated in red ink. HOA rules. Dozens of them. "You'll want to keep this handy," she said. "Some people forget their place." I smiled politely and never opened it. That should have been my first warning. She walked away like she owned the concrete beneath her feet, her posture stiff, proud, perfectly rehearsed. I thought it was harmless. I thought she was just quirky. But something about that smile lingered, like a Trojan horse with a clipboard. And I had just let her through the gates. At first, she left me alone. I kept my lawn trimmed. No loud music. Even fixed the flickering community lamppost when no one else would. I stayed invisible, just how I liked it. Then came the notes. A folded letter in my mailbox. Too many weeds in the flower bed. A warning taped to my trash bin. Lid orientation violates HOA Regulation 2.4. Once I caught her circling the bins with a flashlight at midnight. Another time I noticed a tiny camera tucked into a bush pointed directly at my driveway. It was all polite, technically, but it wasn't neighborly. It was surveillance sugar-coated in HOA lingo, and every interaction ended with that same phrase, "I'm just trying to keep the neighborhood nice." But what she really meant was, I'm in charge here, and me, I was just a player who hadn't yet realized I'd been drafted into her game, without consent. 3 weeks before the invasion, I upgraded everything. A randomized digital gate code, encrypted backup on my phone. Access restricted to police, fire, and one delivery guy. Even my own brother didn't have it. So when a teenage girl knocked on my garage asking if this was where the pool party was, I froze. Then a yoga mom wandered through my backyard like it was a shortcut. A confused DoorDash driver tried handing me someone else's food. Every single one of them said the same thing. Victoria told me it was fine. The gate, the one I built for privacy, for safety, was no longer mine. It had become an open door, a suggestion, a shared utility, and Victoria Harlow was the one handing out the keys. That wasn't a misunderstanding. It was an invasion. And for the first time I realized, this woman didn't just disrespect boundaries, she bulldozed them. I caught her or close enough. Victoria was in her front yard arranging potted plants in perfect color gradients like she was prepping for a botanical trial. I approached calm. "Hey, Victoria, did you give out my gate code?" She blinked as if the concept of consequence had never occurred to her. "Oh, that thing," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "People asked. I figured it was fine. We're all neighbors, right?" I stared at her. "That code is private." She laughed, light, airy, artificial. "It's not like it's your bank password." That was the moment I realized something important. Victoria Harlow didn't think she was wrong. She thought she was entitled. She wasn't breaking rules, she was rewriting them. And worst of all, she was smiling while doing it. I told her not to share it again, she promised, sarcastically, while turning her back like nothing had happened. That night, I reset everything. Not just the gate code, I rebuilt the system from scratch. Randomized digits, time-based encryption, a secondary backup tied to my voice just in case. I even removed all previous user logs and issued a new access list with a time-stamped audit trail. Foolproof. I went to bed feeling like order had returned. But Victoria Harlow wasn't the kind to knock once and walk away. She was the kind who circled back, smiling. 2 days later, I checked my camera feed from a coffee shop downtown and froze. There she was, Victoria, at the keypad, in broad daylight. Behind her, 2 teenage boys and a woman with a yoga mat. She typed the code confidently like nothing had changed, and the gate opened. I nearly crushed my coffee cup. She hadn't just ignored my boundary, she had worked around it. And I knew then this wasn't over, not even close. I didn't storm over to her house, didn't scream, didn't rage, didn't even curse into my coffee. Instead, I did something much more dangerous. I started thinking. Victoria wanted to play queen of the neighborhood fine. Let her. But every monarch needs a throne, and thrones can be dismantled. See, the thing about narcissists is that they can't stand 2 things being ignored and being embarrassed. She had made this personal, so I would make it official. I pulled up the digital HOA roster she'd proudly emailed everyone when I moved in, complete with her direct contact line for neighborhood emergencies. There it was, her personal cell number, sitting there like a loaded weapon. And suddenly, I had an idea. Not revenge, not exactly. More like poetic consequence. If she wanted to be the community's concierge, I'd make sure everyone knew exactly who to call. It took me 15 minutes to change the code. 10 digits, her phone number, a perfect match. No one would suspect a thing unless they knew her well enough to recognize it. And those who did, they wouldn't dare use it again. Then I designed the sign, clean, neutral, HOA friendly, laminated and zip-tied neatly to the keypad post. It read, "Gate code has been updated per neighborhood courtesy. For access, please contact Victoria Harlow, HOA liaison. No threats, no accusations, just facts and delegation." And then I waited. The fallout began within the hour. A delivery guy rang her at 8:00 a.m. A neighbor's out-of-town aunt called her at 5:54 the next morning. By noon, she had over 40 missed calls and 6 angry voicemails. And me, I was on my porch, coffee in hand, watching it unfold like a slow-burn sitcom. This wasn't revenge. This was balance. By mid-afternoon, she snapped. Victoria stormed onto her lawn phone glued to her ear, yelling like she was battling a customer service hotline, except now she was customer service. Her heels pierced the grass like angry punctuation marks. Her voice echoed across mailboxes, high-pitched and furious. "I don't know why they're calling me. No, I am not the gatekeeper. Stop texting me at 6 a.m. Neighbors peeked through blinds. Dogs barked. Birds paused mid-flight. It was glorious. And I just sat on my porch sipping coffee, watching the drama unfold like a live episode of Neighborhood Justice. The best part, I hadn't broken a single rule. The gate was secure. No one was locked out. They simply had to go through the very person who made it a free-for-all in the first place. I didn't call her out. I let her collapse under the weight of her own chaos. The next morning, Victoria showed up with cupcakes and condescension. I thought we should clear the air. She smiled, holding a plastic tray like it was an olive branch dipped in vanilla frosting. Store-bought, crooked, half smushed. I was just trying to keep things friendly. People depend on me, she said, oozing sugary threat. Friendly, from her lips felt more like a warning. I took one cupcake, nodded politely. Didn't invite her in. She danced around the issue until it slipped out. So, you're really not changing the code back? I didn't blink. Why would I? You gave it out. Her eyes twitched. You made me look like an idiot. I nodded again. No apology. Her smirk cracked and she turned without another word. I closed the door. She wanted control. I gave her consequence. 3 days later, retaliation came in neon orange and Comic Sans. A fake notice taped to my gate. Violation of HOA Code 7.2. Gate visibility complaints. Yes, spelled wrong. No official header, just passive aggression with printer ink. I scanned it. Emailed it to the HOA board under the subject, "Thought you'd enjoy this." But Victoria wasn't done. A zoning violation arrived in my mailbox. Operating an unlicensed business. Apparently, coding in sweatpants with a mini fridge and action figures now threatened suburban tranquility. The city inspector chuckled when he saw my setup. "Let me guess." "Victoria," he said, eyeing my Spider-Man mug. She wasn't subtle. She was spiraling. And I was done playing defense. So I upgraded the game. Installed a tamper detection system. If someone fiddled with the keypad, it snapped a high-res photo and pinged HOA legal before they could say privacy violation. Guess who came knocking Victoria? With a child in tow, maybe a neighbor's nephew. She pointed at the keypad, whispered, then tried to open it, with acrylic nails. The screen lit up. Tampering detected. Footage sent to HOA legal. She froze. Looked up straight into the camera lens, eyes wide, caught cold. No snark, no smirk, just silence. And then she turned on her heel and power-walked like the pixels might chase her down. I didn't need to yell, didn't need revenge. I had automation, I had receipts, and now I had undeniable proof. The next morning, Victoria exploded digitally. A rant appeared on the neighborhood message board riddled with dramatic punctuation and all caps in the wrong places. She accused an unnamed neighbor of technological intimidation, surveillance-based bullying, and creating a hostile environment with weaponized gadgets. She never used my name, but everyone knew. The comments were brutal. Some neighbors asked for evidence, others called out the irony. A brave few posted laughing emojis. Within hours, Victoria deleted the post and locked the thread so no one else could comment. Classic move. Start the fire, then pull the alarm when it gets too hot. But the damage was done. People were talking. And for someone who built her power on whispered warnings and silent judgment, public mockery was a nightmare she couldn't mute. Victoria wasn't losing because of what I did. She was unraveling because for the first time people weren't afraid to laugh. Later that week, a knock came at dusk. Tina, 2 doors down, stood there holding a bottle of wine and the kind of expression you only wear when you've seen too much and stayed quiet too long. "I don't mean to intrude," she said softly. "You're handling this way better than the rest of us ever did." We sat on my porch. No words for a moment. Just shared exhaustion. Then came the stories. How Victoria changed rules without votes, approved fines she made up, tried to evict someone over a blue mailbox. "She's been a tyrant for years," Tina said. "You're just the first one who didn't fold." I added her to a private group chat I'd quietly started 6 neighbors all with their own Victoria horror stories. The name of the group, Gatekeepers Anonymous. And just like that I realized I wasn't fighting alone. Victoria wasn't just my problem anymore, she was everyone's. The next morning I mounted a new security camera. Not hidden, not disguised. boldly visible standing like a silent sentry near the sidewalk angled just enough to catch every inch of the gate and everyone who lingered too long. Below it, I posted a small sign, Gate Access, monitored 24/7. Please smile. Polite, almost cheerful, but everyone understood the message. It wasn't just surveillance, it was declaration. And it worked. By noon, I'd received 3 smartwatch alerts, lingering figures, hesitant fingers, a pair of teenagers debating whether to approach. Victoria came by too. She stopped, stared at the lens, then at the sign, then back at the lens. For a moment, she looked like she might scream. Instead, she spun around and stormed off, heels clicking against concrete like retreating drumbeats. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. My system saw everything. And now, so did the neighborhood. She didn't knock this time, just left a wicker gift basket on my porch like some goodwill ambassador on a PR tour. Inside, a bundle of stale cookies, a dollar store cinnamon candle, and a handwritten note that read, "Let's not let a keypad come between neighbors." It smelled like desperation wrapped in lavender tissue paper. This wasn't reconciliation, it was damage control. I took a photo of the basket and sent it to the Gatekeeper's Anonymous group chat with one word, Dayton. Tina replied with a string of laughing emojis. Another neighbor responded, "She's running out of tactics." I left the basket where it was. Not as decoration, more like evidence. She wanted forgiveness without accountability. But what she didn't know was that her every step, every move, every passive gesture was being quietly documented. The more she tried to smooth things over, the deeper she buried herself. Just when the neighborhood began to breathe again, a local news van rolled up to the HOA clubhouse. At first, I thought it was for a gardening expo. Then I saw her Victoria Harlow in a fire-red blazer and heels sharp enough to pierce asphalt, standing beside the keypad with a clipboard like she was giving a tour of a crime scene. She'd called the press, and she was painting herself as the victim. Technological oppression. Digital gatekeeping, a neighbor weaponizing smart systems to target the community. She pointed at my house on camera. My jaw clenched until I recognized the reporter, Micah, college dropout, ex-roommate, now a journalist with a camera crew and a wicked sense of humor. I texted him from an anonymous number, asked her why the gate code matched her phone number. 3 minutes later he did. Victoria blinked, paused, and the unraveling began again. Micah paused mid-interview, his head tilting with theatrical curiosity. "A viewer tip just came in," he said smoothly. "Can you confirm whether the gate code you distributed was your personal cell number?" Victoria blinked. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. She shuffled her stack of folders like they might magically generate a response. I can't confirm that due to privacy reasons." Micah nodded deadpan. "Interesting." He pressed again. "Do you believe it's appropriate to give private gate access to others without the homeowner's consent?" Her voice cracked. It was just community cooperation. His mic clicked off, camera shut down, and her smile died the moment the lens turned away. That night, Micah called me. "Thanks for the tip," he said. "That clip's going viral, especially the part where she said she was being gate-kept in her own community." Twitter's having a field day. So was I. Quietly. Within days, the HOA board started receiving complaints. Not from me, from the neighbors. One accused Victoria of lying about board vote outcomes. Another said she was fined for excessive wind chime usage. Apparently they were too whimsical for the community's tone. But the third, that one hit like a thunderclap. A recently moved-in disabled veteran submitted a formal report. Victoria had told him face-to-face that his adapted vehicle ruined the aesthetic and couldn't be parked in his own driveway. What she didn't know. He recorded the whole conversation. The board was livid. For the first time, Victoria wasn't just seen as annoying. She was seen as dangerous, power-drunk, biased. The tide had shifted, and this time it wasn't me pushing it. It was the very community she once ruled. Victoria wasn't just losing authority, she was losing allies. And worse, she knew it. I started compiling everything not out of revenge, but because I knew what was coming. Every grainy screenshot, every passive-aggressive flyer, every deleted neighborhood post. I archived it all. I labeled them by date, categorized them by type, fake citation, security footage, unsolicited messages. I even included a spreadsheet cross-referencing her statements with HOA bylaws and emails she herself had sent. The result? A digital dossier titled one simple word, Karengate. It wasn't flashy, just clean, coded, airtight. If she wanted to drag me into her circus of a committee meeting, I wasn't just going to walk in, I was going to roll up with a war chest of facts. I wasn't the loudest person in the room, but I'd be the most undeniable. My goal wasn't to destroy her. It was to reveal her, to show everyone what had been hiding behind the clipboard, the cupcakes, and the fake smiles. And the time was near. The letter arrived in a gold-trimmed envelope like it was summoning me to a gala, not a neighborhood inquisition. Inside, on thick cream paper with the HOA logo stamped like it meant something, was a single line that made me smile. Emergency HOA meeting complaint against resident Jackson Miller. It was scheduled for Thursday, 6:00 p.m. at the clubhouse, a building that looked like a rejected wedding venue with sad folding chairs and burnt coffee. There was no mystery about who filed it. This was Victoria's last stand, her final attempt to reclaim control by dragging me into her favorite battlefield public performance. But this time, I wasn't showing up as the accused. I was walking in as the one with receipts, files, dates, context, and a flash drive. She wanted an audience. Fine, let the neighborhood watch. I wouldn't raise my voice, I'd just raise the volume of the truth. I arrived 10 minutes early, dressed neatly. Laptop under one arm, calm as ever. The clubhouse smelled like air freshener and stale judgment. Folding chairs creaked beneath the weight of anticipation as neighbors filed in, whispering, side-eyeing. Some nodded politely. Others pretended not to see me. Victoria arrived 5 minutes late wearing a crimson blazer like she was running for HOA president and had just emerged from a campaign ad. She carried a binder the size of a legal drama script and greeted the board members with a grin rehearsed enough to be unsettling. The meeting began. Mr. Robbins, the HOA chair, looked like he'd rather be at a dental cleaning, but he read the agenda anyway. Victoria rose first. She cleared her throat dramatically, clutched her binder like it held scripture, and began what would become a 7-minute monologue on how I had weaponized technology to terrorize the neighborhood. And she wasn't done. Victoria's voice trembled, not with fear, but with rehearsed intensity. She painted me as a digital tyrant, a recluse obsessed with surveillance, someone who had turned his home into a high-tech fortress designed to bully and intimidate. She used phrases like cyberbullying through automation and paranoia, masquerading as privacy, casting herself as the caring, misunderstood neighbor who had only ever wanted to create a warm, inclusive environment. She even dabbed at the corner of her eye with a tissue as if reciting a eulogy. It was impressive in a way, dramatic, theatrical, entirely detached from reality. When she finally sat down, the room was quiet. Not moved, just confused. Then Mr. Robbins nodded in my direction. Jackson. Your response. I stood. Calm, no folder, no dramatics. I opened my laptop, turned it toward the screen, and said 5 simple words, I'd like to show you something. I clicked play. The screen filled with grainy, time-stamped footage of 3 strangers walking confidently through my private gate, laughing and quoting Victoria's name like a referral code. One of them looked straight at the camera and said, "She said it's fine, we're just using the shortcut." Gasps, shifts in chairs. Then came the clip of Victoria bending over the keypad, whispering instructions to a child trying to pry the cover off with her nails. I followed it with side-by-side comparisons of her fake HOA warnings versus the official ones, highlighting mismatched fonts, grammar errors, and non-existent rule citations. Then screenshots of her message board rant, followed by her deleting it hours later. The room was silent. I didn't narrate. I didn't accuse. The footage spoke for itself, calm, clear, and undeniable. When I closed the laptop, I looked around once, then said quietly, "I've never broken a rule. I've just protected my home." The silence hung thick, No one dared move. Then, Mr. Jennings' quiet silver-haired, rarely vocal, stood up and cleared his throat. "I need to say something," he said. All eyes turned. Even Victoria stiffened. "This," he lifted his phone, "is the voicemail Victoria left me 3 weeks ago. She gave me the gate code, told me, 'Don't worry about Jackson, he's just private.'" His voice was steady, clear, unwavering. He turned to Victoria. "And you also let my nephew host a yoga session on the greenbelt behind Jackson's yard without asking him. I didn't say anything before. I didn't want drama." He looked around the room. "But this has gone too far." The room shifted. Heads nodded. Eyes narrowed, not at me, but at her. Victoria opened her mouth to interrupt, but Jennings raised a hand. "Enough, Victoria. We're not stupid. We're just tired." And just like that, the tide had turned. The room hummed like an overcharged wire. Victoria looked around, eyes wild, searching for a lifeline. But no one met her gaze. The show was over, and the curtain had dropped. Mr. Robbins cleared his throat tone calm, but resolute. "Based on the video evidence, the false citations, the testimony of multiple residents, and the pattern of behavior—" He paused. "The board unanimously votes to censure Ms. Victoria Harlow for violating resident privacy and misusing her role within the HOA." Victoria gasped. "This is ridiculous. You're no longer acting liaison," he continued firmly. "Effective immediately. And moving forward, a digital subcommittee will oversee all security and access protocols." Then he looked at me. "Jackson, we'd like you to lead it. You've earned the trust." I blinked. Victoria had dragged me in to humiliate me. Instead, I was walking out promoted. The room didn't erupt. It just exhaled relief, justice, and quiet triumph. Victoria disappeared for a week. No patrols, no memos, just eerie silence. I almost believed she'd surrendered, until the news van rolled up. There she stood, poised, pressed white blazer microphone in hand, delivering her grand soliloquy of persecution. She gestured at the gate, speaking of technological tyranny, community trauma, and a once-friendly code turned into a weapon of mass humiliation. What she didn't know, I recognized the reporter. Micah, my college roommate. I texted him anonymously. "Ask her why the gate code was her phone number." 3 minutes later, he did. Victoria froze. "Well, for security reasons, I can't confirm." Micah raised an eyebrow. "But didn't you give it out freely?" She stumbled through a word salad of assumed permissions and community spirit, but it was too late. The camera caught her panic, her unraveling composure. The clip aired that night. It didn't just expose her. It went mildly viral. And the internet was merciless. Overnight, glossy flyers flooded the neighborhood under windshields taped to lampposts slid into mail slots. "Take back our neighborhood." They screamed in cursive. At the bottom, a time, a date, and an address, Victoria's lawn. Her last stand had arrived. I hadn't planned to go, until Mr. Jennings knocked flyer in hand. "You should be there," he said. "Not for her, for us." 15 minutes in, I arrived. Victoria stood with a microphone plugged into a squeaky speaker, dressed like a political candidate and clutching a glittery binder. She painted herself a martyr, twisting facts into theater. Her voice carried, but her words fell flat. Then a hand rose from the crowd. "Did you give out the gate code?" A second voice. "Was it your phone number?" A third, and the keypad tampering. Her mask cracked. I stepped forward, not with anger, but calm. And I told the truth, out loud, in front of everyone. That night, the neighborhood felt different, lighter, quieter, like it had finally exhaled. The new keypad glowed softly, rotating codes humming in silent defiance to the chaos that once ruled. And as I stood by the gate watching the screen display access, granted by respect, not entitlement, I realized it was never really about a gate. It was about boundaries, those we set to protect our peace, our privacy, and our dignity. About standing firm without becoming bitter. About proving that you don't need to shout to be heard. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to fight for your space, your truth, your right to breathe freely, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it. Maybe they're still facing their own Victoria, because no one, no neighbor, no self-declared authority has the right to breach your pool, your peace, or your power. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.